Week 3, bonus video 3, we're going to continue to batch process. Today might be one of the top 3 tricks, I think, in my entire career. It has saved me so much time. It has made me so much money. It is a really handy trick. Without any further ado, here's what we're going to do. We're going to color correct. We're going to make the color correct on an entire batch of photographs with one click. Now, lots of people go into Photoshop to color correct. If you're in Photoshop to color correct, you're already in trouble. It's the wrong place. The right place to color correct is Bridge. Now, I hope I just sent shivers down the spines of most of you. Bridge is where you color correct, and here's how you color correct. Now listen, white balance, you know that phrase as a photographer. With white balance, you are actually trying to get your camera to compensate for whatever color of the ambient light, the quote-unquote white, is, right? We know white isn't really white. It's not neutral white. Now, many of you are setting white balance in your cameras. I never do. If you shoot in JPEG, you must live and die by the white balance in your camera. You must. You have to. But if you're shooting in RAW, you never have to worry about white balance. Now, that's shocking to most of my professional photographers. But if you shoot in RAW, I do, I never have to set my white balance. You don't? Here's why. I'm going to go on a photo shoot. The image here on my desktop behind me, this lovely lady with her dog and her, yeah, you may have noticed there's a dog and a guy in this photo too, right? But when I'm shooting in the wild, professionally, I bring a gray card. And that gray card makes it into the scene before I ever start to shoot. It's like this. Maybe you've seen movies or stories about movies, right? And right before they go to film, they go, little clapboard, right? Take 1, 17. And they clap it. And it starts the scene. And written on that clapboard is what the scene is, who it is, where it goes, that kind of thing. And so the film editor can go through the film, and whenever he sees that clapboard, or whenever the audio person hears that snap, they know, oh, that's the beginning of a new scene. Well, that's what my gray card is to me, a photographer. The gray card, when I go through my images, whenever I see a gray card, that tells me, it was a new scene. Why? Because I always put it in the image whenever my scene is new. Why do I do that? Well, a couple of reasons. You could use a gray card to meter on if you're shooting. You can meter. It will get you the perfect exposure. Now, you don't have to take a picture while you're pointing to the gray card to meter. You just get your meter in the middle with aperture, ISO, or shutter speed, or some combination thereof. But for this trick, I'm actually going to take a picture after I meter and hang on to that. Let's go in. I'm going into Bridge, and I want you to see that there's a series of images I took pictures of in my kitchen, and every one of these images was shot at the same time under incandescent or tungsten light. I didn't white balance. It's a raw file. So here's what I'm going to do, and notice that the very first, these are backwards, the first image was actually of my gray card. Now it can be first or last, but I'm telling you what I normally would do. Now I'm going to make it last on purpose just so that you can fix this if you bump into this problem. Here we go. I'm going to select the first image in Bridge and the very last image as I see it in Bridge from my latest photo shoot. I'm going to shift click at the end. We're going to learn more about that in bonus video 5. I clicked and I shift clicked and it selects everything in between. Here we go. Command R on the Mac, Control R on the PC, or the long cut, open in Camera Raw. Command R. They are all opening in Camera Raw at the same time. Now I'm in Camera Raw and I have my images set to run vertically on the side of my display. Yours may be showing across the bottom. You may not have the latest version of Camera Raw. You may have a later version of Camera Raw if you see this months from now. But it doesn't matter. I'm in Camera Raw. I'm looking at all my images. But what I really want to do, I'm going to slide down so I can see the gray card image, and I'm going to click it once. That's the one I want to see. And now I'm going to do Command A or Control A on the PC. Command A or Control A. And it selects all of my thumbnails. So I'm looking at my gray card picture that I took, and I did select all to select all of the images, thumbnails at the same time, and in one click I will color correct all of the images from this shoot. How? I'm going to hold the Shift key. It's magic. Hold the Shift key and click on the gray card. It just made the gray perfectly gray. Oh, by the way, and it set all the other colors to exactly what they looked like, what the colors of those images actually were. I don't have to open these one by stinking one in Photoshop to get the color correct. I'm going to say done, and I'm out. I could stop the bonus video right now, but I have a feeling you'd like to see it in some other situations, so I'm going to continue to do that. I got hired by a jewelry company to get their photographs to be color corrected for their catalogs. Now, there were over 810 photographs, and those photographs were taken in the same studio under the same lighting conditions. So what I'm going to do is show you, these were some of their jewelry, some art, some cloisonné images in this case. But what I did was I just threw my gray card. Now you're looking at the top, and there's sort of a slanted gray card. That's a card that I just keep around with me. I just have it around, and it's usually in my photo bag. So if I don't have my collapsible gray card, which I usually do, or I can't find it, I've always got a backup of a gray card, a photographic gray card. It's not just any old gray, it's perfectly gray. And I found each of these items online. $30 and $10 for a set of 3. I cut this one down. It was actually 8 by 10. I cut it down to make a little baby one too. And I hang that on my lanyard with my keys and my business cards and whatnot. But if you don't do that, you can also just find a set of 3 color correction cards at Adorama or BH Photo, Amazon, something like that. You'll get a white, a gray, and a black, but it's that gray that I really give a darn about. Now this gray is middle gray, but it's not middle, long story short. Hey, get yourself a gray card. There it is. And so what I do is I open that image in Camera Raw and I shift click on the gray card. Trust me, all of those little charms are exactly color corrected. I do it every time I'm shooting product. There's a gray card. There's another gray card. There are 2 of them. So on that scene that you saw on my desktop, right? Before the model ever got ready, before these people ever showed up, the stylist put out strawberries and books and bread in a basket and so on and so forth. But before they showed up, I threw my gray card out into the scene. After I had it lit just the way it was going to be, I threw that card out, and that's the first picture I took. And I did that so that for all the other images on that photo shoot, Command R, here they are. I want to look at the gray card image. I'm going to do select all. Here they are. And I shift click on the gray card. So that's the key. That's the key. Okay, so long as that gray card was in that image when you took that photo. And so very often I'll have an assistant hold that gray card up before we'll take the photo shot. Sometimes you don't need an assistant. Just toss it in and take the picture. Just make sure you have yourself a gray card, right? I've got a couple of images here. I've got 3. This is all one shoot, Command R. And I'm told that that wall is a very particular yellow. I'm told that this Indian blanket, Native American blanket here in Arizona, is a particular teal. Very, very difficult colors to match. And so I threw in my lanyard with my gray card. Select all, shift click on the gray card, and trust me, it fixed every image. That's the yellow, that's the teal, that's the done button, and I'm out. I showed you here with 2 fixed images. If I'm shooting a wedding, I might shift click and fix 100 images at a time. 100 in the sanctuary, 100 at the reception, 100 outside with the family, whatever. When the scene changes, that card gets tossed out for another set of images. And if I ever want even a single image to be color corrected, I just shift, click, and bridge. Colors is right, colors accurate. That's the setup, that's the gig, that's what we do. Sometimes I'll have my models hold the image before we do it. Command R, shift click, I'm done. That was just one image. But whatever you're doing, if you're color correcting in more than one click, you're working too hard. You're working too hard. That's the way it works. Now, if you have a real middle gray in a real image and no gray card, it could work for you to shift click on that middle gray, but you're safest using a real live gray card. Gray card, I have them everywhere. One in my book bag, one in my wallet, one on my lanyard around my neck. We could end, but I'm going to explain to you what's happening. If your head is already pounding and you want to go to work, go. But let me explain why this is happening, why it's happening. You've been mistaught most of your life about color. You've been told that the opposite of certain colors are other certain colors, and those are wrong. You've been hearing that information that has been a holdover from 1903, Albert Munsell. He was an art teacher. He got it wrong. I would love to talk about this. It's something I enjoy talking about, but it's not important for this conversation. What is important is that the 3 main colors, the primary colors, for real, are red, green, and blue. Your camera only sees red, green, and blue light. The human eyeball only sees red, green, and blue light. All the other colors you think you see are your brain and your eyeball combining red, green, and blue light to see yellows and oranges and every such other color there is. Human beings can only see 3 colors of light. You only have 3 color sensing type cones in your eyeballs, red, green, and blue. Regardless, if you were to get an equal signal of red and green and blue, gray would happen. When those 3 lights get merged at exact equivalence, red same amount, green same amount, green, blue, gray happens. Gray is therefore the perfect combo of every light a human can see. Get gray right and all the other colors snap into shape. Now the print world have recently figured this out. We've been doing this for a very long time photographically, but the print world have recently figured out, and there's a standard that they're forming to, right, called G7. 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 And that 7, you'll notice, is gray. And it could stand for get it, G7, get the 7 right, and look, there are the 7 colors. Get the gray right, and all the other colors will be fixed. G7. The print world knows this. The photographic world ought to use this. We shoot in gray, we get our grays right, we send it off. Printers should be getting the grays right. It automatically gets the other colors right. Gray is the magic. Make sure you're carrying it. That's it for bonus video 3, color correction. Get your gray right. The rest will follow. But Rick, yes, you ask? Let's go back in. What was that shift-click business all about? When you hold the shift key in Camera Raw, shift, your eyedropper turns into a gray-filled ink dropper. And it's saying, when you hold the shift key, if you'll show me gray, I'll suck that up and fix all your colors for you. That's why as soon as I open my images in Camera Raw, I shift click. Now, others of you are doing it in many other ways. Good luck. And hopefully good riddance. Welcome to Bridge, the Queen of Color.